My friends, every one of us is on a journey, the journey of life. From the moment we take our first breath until the day we draw our last, we are traveling somewhere. The question we must ask ourselves is not whether we are moving, but where we are going and what is guiding us along the way. There comes a point in every person's life when the question of direction becomes impossible to ignore. You may be busy, successful, or surrounded by people, yet deep inside you sense that something is missing, that your life is moving, but not necessarily moving in the right direction. You see, motion does not equal meaning. We can be running fast, working hard, doing many things, and still be lost. Without direction, life becomes a restless search for something that always feels just out of reach. Many people wake up each day chasing after goals, yet when they reach them, they realize those goals didn't lead to the satisfaction they expected. That is why direction is not just helpful, it is essential. You can have energy, intelligence, and opportunity, but if you are heading the wrong way, all those gifts will only carry you further from where you are meant to be. Every person needs a compass, a fixed point of truth, something that does not shift with moods, opinions, or trends. Life is filled with distractions that promise fulfillment but only deliver emptiness. You may look to friends for advice, society for guidance, or your own heart for answers, but these sources can be unreliable. The heart can be deceived by desire, the mind can be confused by fear, and the world often applauds the very things that lead to destruction. Direction, real direction, must come from something greater than human wisdom. It must come from a source that knows not only where you are, but where you need to go. There are times when we feel certain we know what's best for ourselves. We plan, we dream, and we move forward with confidence. But then, without warning, life changes. Circumstances we never expected interrupt our path. We find ourselves in unfamiliar territory, wondering where to turn next. That's when the absence of clear direction becomes painfully real. It's in those moments that people either turn toward a greater truth or keep wandering in confusion. You see, direction is not only about finding the right path, it's about knowing who is leading you. When you trust in your own understanding, you are limited by your perspective. But when you allow divine guidance to take the lead, you gain a sense of peace that surpasses what logic can offer. The need for direction is part of the design of life itself. We were not created to wander aimlessly. We were meant to be guided. There is something within the human spirit that longs for purpose, for clarity, for a sense of being on the right track. That longing is not weakness. It is a reminder that we are made for connection with something higher than ourselves. When you recognize your need for direction, you take the first step toward wisdom. You admit that you cannot find your way alone, and that humility opens the door to understanding. The need for direction is not a sign of failure. It is the beginning of a meaningful journey. The true compass in life is not found in human intellect, material success, or even our personal experiences. It is found in the steady, unchanging guidance of God. Just as a physical compass always points north regardless of where you stand, God's guidance always points toward truth, righteousness, and peace. His direction never shifts with time, opinion, or culture. While the world around us constantly redefines what is right or valuable, the divine compass remains constant. It does not confuse us with mixed signals or false promises. It leads us one step at a time toward a life of purpose and fulfillment. Yet for many, the challenge is not the absence of the compass, but the reluctance to trust it fully. God's guidance is revealed in many ways. The most powerful of these is through His Word, timeless truth that illuminates our path when everything else seems dark. The words of Scripture are not merely stories or moral lessons. They are instructions for living. They tell us how to walk wisely, how to love sincerely, and how to stand firm when life tests our faith. When you open that book and let its words speak to your heart, you begin to see that every answer you've been searching for is already there. The compass of divine truth does not promise an easy path, but it promises the right one. God also guides us through His Spirit, that quiet inner presence that nudges us toward the right choices even when they seem difficult. The Spirit may whisper to your heart, "Wait," when impatience tries to push you ahead, or "Go," when fear tempts you to stay still. Learning to recognize that voice takes time, stillness, and surrender. It's not about hearing something loud. It's about discerning something true. The Spirit doesn't compete with the noise of the world. It speaks peace into confusion, conviction into compromise, and courage into fear. When we let that guidance rule our decisions, we discover that even the smallest choices can carry eternal weight. Yet many times we question the compass. We look at the direction it points and wonder if it really knows the way. We say, maybe I should take another route. Maybe this path looks easier. But each time we ignore that inner prompting, we find ourselves wandering farther from peace. God's compass will never lead us to destruction, but it may lead us through difficulty, because sometimes the shortest path to growth is not the easiest one. Trusting divine direction means accepting that God sees what we cannot see. He knows the storms ahead, the obstacles on the road, and the blessings that wait beyond our sight. When you make God your compass, you begin to live differently. You no longer chase every passing trend or opinion. You stop relying solely on your own judgment. Instead, you rest in the assurance that your steps are ordered by something greater. You walk not by sight, but by faith. And that is where the true journey begins. Learning to listen to the inner voice of the Spirit is one of the most essential disciplines of a meaningful life. The guidance of God's Spirit is not a distant or mystical concept. It is a personal relationship between the Creator and His creation. Yet in the noise and hurry of our daily lives, it becomes easy to drown out that gentle whisper. The Spirit does not shout or demand attention. Instead, it speaks softly, often in moments of stillness, conviction, or quiet reflection. To hear that voice, we must first learn to silence the distractions that compete for our hearts and minds. We live in a world filled with endless opinions, constant noise, and unrelenting pressure to move faster. But the Spirit's voice is best heard in stillness, in moments when the soul turns away from chaos and leans toward peace. Listening to the Spirit begins with surrender. It means admitting that our understanding is limited, that we cannot always see the whole picture, and that divine wisdom is greater than human reasoning. The Spirit does not lead through confusion, but through clarity, even if that clarity doesn't come all at once. Sometimes the Spirit will speak a single word to your heart, wait. Other times, it may impress upon you a feeling of peace about a difficult choice. At times, it might bring conviction, that gentle uneasiness that tells you something is not right. When you obey those promptings, you grow in sensitivity to God's direction. The more you listen and respond, the clearer the guidance becomes. However, learning to listen also requires discernment. Not every thought or feeling comes from the Spirit. That is why it is important to align what you sense internally with the truth of God's Word. The Spirit will never contradict what is written in Scripture. The two work in perfect harmony, one confirming the other. When the Spirit speaks, it brings peace, not panic, conviction, not condemnation, hope, not despair. If something pulls you toward pride, fear, or selfish ambition, it is not from God. The true inner voice of the Spirit always leads toward love, humility, and obedience. Sometimes the Spirit's voice will lead you into places you never planned to go. It might call you to leave behind comfort, take a risk, or step out in faith. It might ask you to forgive when you'd rather hold a grudge, to give when you'd rather keep, or to speak when silence feels safer. Those moments are tests of trust, but each act of obedience strengthens your connection with that inner voice. Over time, you come to realize that the Spirit is not merely guiding you through life, it is shaping you within life, molding your heart to reflect the one who leads you. When you live with a listening heart, you begin to notice divine direction even in ordinary moments. A conversation, a verse, a quiet conviction, all become instruments of guidance. The Spirit becomes your constant companion, your counselor, your source of wisdom and strength. And when you walk in step with that inner voice, your life takes on a rhythm of peace, confidence, and purpose that nothing in this world can replace. The world offers many maps for how to live, and at first glance, they seem convincing. They promise happiness, success, recognition, and freedom. They tell you that if you chase after wealth, popularity, or pleasure, you will find fulfillment. But those maps are drawn by human hands, guided by temporary values and ever-changing opinions. The problem is that they often lead us away from truth and into confusion. The world's map is focused on appearance rather than substance, comfort rather than character, and approval rather than integrity. It may look attractive, but when followed long enough, it leaves the heart empty. The danger of following the world's map is not always obvious at first. It often feels exciting in the beginning. The path is wide, the crowd is large, and everything seems easy. But as time passes, the emptiness grows deeper, and the sense of direction begins to fade. Many people discover too late that they have spent years climbing a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall. The world teaches us to measure success by possessions, power, and popularity. But when those things are gone, when the applause fades and the achievements lose their shine, what remains? The world's map cannot guide you through the valleys of loss, the storms of doubt, or the seasons of pain. It offers shortcuts to happiness but no lasting peace. It teaches self-promotion but not humility, self-gratification but not love. The world's map is loud, persuasive, and often deceptive, and it leads many travelers into paths that end in disappointment. When you choose to live by the world's map, you become a slave to its shifting directions. What is popular today will be forgotten tomorrow. What seems right in one generation is questioned in the next. You end up constantly adjusting your course, trying to keep up with expectations that never stay still. That kind of life leads to exhaustion, not satisfaction. True peace cannot be found in following the crowd. It can only be found in following truth. The world says, follow your heart, but the heart, when left unguided, can be misled by emotion and desire. Only when the heart is anchored in divine truth can it discern the right way forward. There is also another danger in following the world's map. It dulls the voice of your conscience. The more you walk according to its patterns, the easier it becomes to justify choices that once made you uneasy. Slowly, compromise replaces conviction, and you begin to settle for less than what you were created to be. The world will never remind you of your higher calling. It will only invite you to fit in. But you are not made to conform to a passing system. You are made to walk in truth that endures. When you reject the world's map and follow the compass of divine wisdom instead, you may find the road narrower and the journey harder, but your steps will be sure. The path of truth does not promise popularity, but it promises peace. It does not always bring comfort, but it always leads to life. And when the world's noise fades, the traveler who chose truth will stand firm, knowing they have walked the only road that truly matters. There will come moments in life when the path you're on suddenly darkens, when the direction that once seemed clear is hidden by the fog of uncertainty. It's in those times that faith is tested most deeply. You may find yourself asking, where is God? Has He forgotten me? Did I take a wrong turn? But the truth is this: the compass still works, even when you can't see the road ahead. The storms of life do not change the direction of truth. They only challenge your willingness to trust it. God's guidance does not disappear in difficulty. It becomes most powerful there. When everything around you feels unstable, His direction remains fixed. The problem is not that His compass stops pointing the way. It's that fear makes us doubt it. Trusting the compass in the storm means choosing faith over feeling. Our emotions are like waves. They rise and fall with circumstances. But faith holds steady. There will be times when everything inside you wants to take control, to make your own way, to find an easier road. But true trust is not proven when life is simple. It is proven when nothing seems certain. Think about a sailor in the middle of the ocean. When clouds hide the stars and waves crash around the ship, he cannot rely on what he sees. His survival depends on trusting his instruments. In the same way, when life's storms surround you, your security depends on trusting God's guidance. Even when you can't see how things will work out, there are moments when God's direction doesn't make sense to the human mind. He may tell you to wait when you want to run, to forgive when you'd rather fight, or to stand still when the world says move. But every time you obey that unseen direction, you declare your confidence not in what you understand, but in who He is. That kind of faith brings peace even in chaos. It reminds you that God's compass not only shows the way, it holds you steady until the storm passes. You don't have to know every detail of the journey. You just need to trust the one who does. Sometimes the hardest part of trusting the compass is the silence. There will be seasons when God seems quiet, when prayers feel unanswered and guidance seems distant. But silence does not mean absence. Just as a compass doesn't stop working when you stop moving, God doesn't stop guiding when you stop hearing. He may be testing your faith, building your character, and teaching you endurance. Trusting Him in the storm means believing that His plan is still unfolding, even when it's hidden from view. When the storm finally settles and the skies clear, you'll look back and realize something beautiful, that the very moments you feared were the ones that shaped your strength. Every wave that tried to break you was used to build you. You'll see that the compass was right all along, that God never left you adrift, and that His direction was leading you closer, not just to safety, but to a deeper, stronger faith. When you choose to live by the compass of divine direction, something remarkable happens within you. You begin to walk with a quiet confidence and a deep sense of purpose. You no longer drift aimlessly trying to fit into every expectation or please every voice. You know who you are and where you're going because your direction comes from a source that never fails. Confidence in life is not born from control but from trust. It comes from knowing that your steps are being guided by wisdom greater than your own. This doesn't mean life becomes easy or predictable. It means that even in uncertainty, you are secure. You may not know the entire path ahead, but you know the one who does, and that assurance gives strength to face whatever lies before you. Living with purpose begins when you surrender your plans to a higher plan. Many people spend their lives trying to design the perfect route, setting goals, chasing dreams, and building achievements, only to find that fulfillment still escapes them. But when you allow God's compass to set your direction, every step gains eternal meaning. The ordinary moments of life, the work you do, the people you help, the challenges you face, all become part of something bigger. Purpose is not found in striving, but in aligning. When your heart aligns with divine will, even small acts become sacred, and your journey becomes an offering of faith. Confidence also grows as you experience the faithfulness of God in every season. Each time you trust His guidance and see the outcome of obedience, your trust deepens. You begin to realize that no path led by Him is ever wasted. Even detours and delays have a purpose. What once seemed like setbacks become lessons. What once felt like waiting becomes preparation. Every experience, joyful or painful, fits perfectly into the greater plan of shaping your character and fulfilling your purpose. When you live with that understanding, fear loses its grip. You don't have to see the whole road to take the next step. You walk boldly because you know the compass never misleads. Living by this compass gives you peace that others can see but cannot explain. It's the calm that remains in chaos, the hope that survives disappointment, the joy that persists in hardship. People around you may wonder how you stay steady when life is uncertain, but the secret lies in your foundation. You are anchored not in circumstances, but in truth. That inner stability becomes a light to others, a living testimony that following divine direction leads to lasting peace. As you continue on your journey, you'll find that confidence and purpose go hand in hand. The more you trust the compass, the clearer your path becomes. You stop chasing outcomes and start walking in obedience. You stop worrying about tomorrow because you're living faithfully today. And when your journey comes to its end, you will look back with gratitude, knowing that every step, every trial, every triumph was guided by the steady hand of the one who never led you astray.